policy, the federal budget. Adam, thanks so much for coming on the program, sir.
Yeah, certainly. Thanks for having me on.
Yes, I wanted to have you on to talk about the internet sales tax specifically, because we got the Supreme Court that's going to be really kind of going to hear a really huge decision that's got implications for everybody in the country as well as us here in Arkansas. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so in a couple months ago, the Supreme Court heard this ruling in the case is called the Wayfarer, the online retailer against South Dakota, and what the argument is about is whether or not states like South Dakota or California should be able to compel businesses that aren't in their state to collect their local sales tax. And so we're going to get a ruling here in the next either this coming Monday or the following Monday. And the hope is that the Supreme Court upholds the sort of boundaries of state authority, that they tell states, no, indeed, you can't reach outside of your border and assess taxes on people who don't live there.
This is a big deal for us in Arkansas because, of course, Arkansas is the home of Walmart, and Walmart has a lobby, and I think they definitely would support our delegation to Washington, D.C., instituting a sort of national internet sales tax. And so, I mean, that if the Supreme Court were to overturn, the current precedent, that would be the next battle, right?
Yeah, that's the current precedent is the precedent under Quill, which was a decision in the 1990s, and that decision said protected businesses that were outside of states that don't have a physical presence there from collecting their sales tax. And so if the Supreme Court overturns that and says there's a free-for-all, all states can compel any company, no matter where they're located, to collect their local sales tax, it'll create a incredible burden on especially small and local retailers who if you sell to any state around the country, you now have to comply with the over 10,000 different taxing jurisdictions, different rules, different rates, and that's really unsustainable. So then Congress will have to come in, and Congress seems to favor right now a regime of not recodifying the Quill standard, but instead saying, hey, states you can still tax outside your borders, just here's some rules about how to do it, and that would be really unfortunate.
Yeah, it absolutely would, and it would be anti-business, and it's going to really, I think it's the gateway to regulate the internet even more. This great piece of technology that is extremely convenient. Hey, do you buy the argument, Adam? We're talking with Adam Mitchell from the Heritage Foundation. Do you buy the argument that this is somehow going to save Main Street businesses if we were to somehow successfully tax the internet?
No, I don't think that's the case at all. In fact, I think it would actually make large internet retailers like the Amazons of the world even more hegemonic in their space. That Amazon has the technology and the resources to comply with tax laws in every state and every local jurisdiction. This will really hit the local, small, medium-sized businesses, mom-and-pop stores, people who make something as a hobby and sell it online. All of these folks will also have to comply with these same rules, and the cost to them will be significantly larger as a portion of their profits than a big Amazon or a Walmart. And so really what this is about protecting small online retailers from the burdensome tax regulations of states all across the country.
Yeah, I certainly agree with that. I don't understand. I mean, that in our state here locally, they've tried to pass. They failed to pass. Thankfully, we had enough conservatives that stood up against them. But they were trying to pass an internet sales tax that they admitted in committee was
I think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the Founding Fathers.
They seem to be in full-scale retreat from spending cuts and are talking about raising people's taxes again. And I have only one thing to say to the tax increasers. Go ahead, make my day.
If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. Those who would trade our freedom for security have embarked on this downward course. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell is on now.
Good morning. Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for being with us today. You have found the intersection of conservative ideas and reality where we are building a liberty machine. And thanks for starting the beginning of your week with us here. The phone number 870-275-9799. That's 870-275-9799. Also broadcasting over across multiple digital platforms, facebook.com/Conduit News, Conduit News on YouTube, as well as conduitnews.com and live stream. We appreciate everybody who are joining us via those mediums as well as terrestrial radio. For those of you that, if you guys like to go back, if you guys are listening now and you'd like to go back and get the audio-only version of the podcast of the program, we're having a slight delay in hitting record, something wrong with the computer. But we're going to get that going as soon as we can, but that doesn't mean that the video podcasts and stuff are working fine and capturing just fine. Real quick, before we dive into some state issues and the ongoing corruption that is the state of Arkansas, I mean, folks, I got to tell you, I've had several people over the course of me doing this broadcast, me, being in radio, and I've talked to several people who moved down here from Chicago. They moved down here from Chicago, and they called me, and they thought, I thought I was moving down, getting away from Cook County politics. And wouldn't you know, the stuff I read in the paper, it sounds like it's exactly the same. The difference is politicians down here are much cheaper than they are in Cook County, Illinois. I'm going to get to all of that. We have some, the stuff that we've been doing here at Conduit News, exposing this, talking about this, it's starting to really make a lot of people upset. They want to attack really the messenger, and since, everybody wants to be a victim these days, the left obviously wants to have a victim mentality about everything. There's always an oppressor. There's always a victim. Well, if you listen to these politicians, they're the ones who are victims. If you listen to these healthcare companies, they're the ones who are somehow victims. If you listen to these attorney legislators, they're the ones who are somehow victims, when in the reality is they've been taking money to pass laws that we all have to live under. I'd say that makes us the victims. What about you? Right? They're the ones with the bully pulpit. They're the ones with the actual power. What I'm doing, what Conduit News is doing, what we are doing as a press is just trying to speak truth to power here, and yet that's getting a lot of people flustered and upset, like they're the victims of some sort of conspiracy, when they are here because of their own actions. They are here because they have some sort of they're part of the swamp. And if in the case of Senator Jeremy Hutchinson, taking $500,000 in bribes, the very fact that I say that, I'm somehow victimizing the system down there. You guys are responsible for this. All of you, in a way, because many of you guys have known it's going on. I've done my best to try to expose this stuff. Let me tell you, I want you to understand something. We are trying to expose Arkansas corruption, and then when what we report turns out to be true, when our healthy American skepticism of the government of the state of Arkansas turns out to be warranted to be skeptical of these people in power, we have people that say, okay, all right, but we need to slow down. We need to be patient. We need to take our time here. It's like, at what point, how bad does it have to get before there is an outright revolt among the rank and file of the Arkansas Republican Party to say we are now occupying the moral low ground, but yet we claim to be on the moral high ground? We campaign to be on the moral high ground. What is it going to take Arkansas Republicans, the Republican Party of Arkansas, What is it going to take for you guys to step up and do the right thing? What is it going to take for Asa Hutchinson to call for his nephew to resign? What is it going to take? How bad would it have to be? And it's to the point of a national embarrassment. And I'm sad. I'm really sad for the people on the county committees who for 20, 30 years or more were knocking doors trying to get people to stop voting for the Democrats and their pro-choice ways, their pro-abortion ways, and start to vote for Republicans. Stop voting for the Democrats and their high-tax, high-spend ways and start voting for the Republicans. Stop voting for the Democrats because they're corrupt and start voting for the Republicans. And the Republicans get in, and there's no difference. And a matter of fact, the reason I even started down this train of thought is because Rex Nelson has this op-ed. I don't know if you saw it in the Democrat Gazette. And he confirms every critique, virtually every critique about Governor Asa Hutchinson and how he is not a true conservative. And he admits it. Now, he thinks it's a good thing. He thinks it's the best thing. But he admits that it's just a long line of continuation of progressive governors that can serve up red meat on the campaign trail, but and by the way, and anti-Trump, by the way. Anyway, it's just interesting, and it seems like the more Conduit news is correct, the more people just want to ignore the problems that are obvious. These are obvious problems. They are big. Arkansas is a very corrupt place to be. And that's a sad thing. People wonder why we're one of the poorest states in the country per capita income. I think it's because we're corrupt. And it's a lot easier to claim that you care about rising incomes or claim you care about the poor. Well, at the same time, you are subsisting. Your very existence depends on you creating nothing but you taking from a big, bloated government. We have a lot of people that couldn't create something for themselves running our affairs. We have a lot of people who couldn't create something for themselves who are running and deciding how much to take from other people who are out there. You guys who right now who are going to work, that have a skill, that own a business, that employ people, the people that are going to work right now learning a skill that hope to own a business one day, you are the backbone of this economy, and it's a shame that we don't have a government that represents you. We don't have a government that understands the fact that, George Washington said government's a necessary evil. It's a shame that we don't have a government that understands, or a majority of the politicians that understand, that the government exists because there are free people who are, exchanging goods, who are in a supposedly a free market economy, that if it wasn't for the tax base, there would be no money to steal. Let's put it that way. If it wasn't for you going to work right now, there wouldn't be money for them to steal and to divvy up and to move around in a shell game and then convince you that they lowered your taxes when they really raised them secretly through legislative sleight of hand and things you're never going to find out about, or they hope you're not going to find out about until Conduit News gets a hold of it and reports it to you. Number again, 870-275-9799. I didn't even mean to go there yet. Going to go there a little later. Even more, there's stuff in the headlines. But I wanted to start with a little piece of national news. I mean, folks, did you see this? 5 dead after a SUV being chased by Border Patrol crashes. This happened yesterday. It was about 50 miles from the border in Big Wells, Texas. And there were 5 undocumented immigrants that were thrown from the car. It was a 100-mile-an-hour chase. There was actually 3 SUVs, okay? There were 3 SUVs, according to reports, and Border Patrol agents were able to successfully pull over the first 2. But the third one decided to keep on going, and it was driving, got to a 100-mile-an-hour chase, and it flipped, and 5 immigrants were ejected from the vehicle. Last report I saw, 4 of them were dead at the scene. but there were 14 other people in the car with them. Now, this is a Suburban, ladies and gentlemen, a Suburban. So the agents were correct. Yes, this was some sort of human smuggling operation. Not really sure what, to the extent was. But when there's 14, how do you get 14 people into a Suburban? Am I the only one? I was thinking, my goodness, this is a huge problem. How do you get 14 people into Suburban? Of course, the left and stuff, they're probably, I don't know, I'm just assuming they're probably freaking out when they have anytime law enforcement acts, to try to enforce the law and people's own actions that are illegal end up getting them killed. They're probably always going to want to blame law enforcement, but they're also probably obsessed with the optics here because right now it was Father's Day yesterday. By the way, I hope everybody had a happy Father's Day. It was my first Father's Day, and they had. And it was second Father's Day, yeah, but I mean, she's 11 months old. It's my first Father's Day where I actually get to hold a baby. Let's put it that way. And so the left's all upset about the optics because they're trying to, call Donald Trump Jr. a hypocrite because he has has a photo taken with his kids, and they're like, well, what about the kids being separated from their parents at the border? You've got the Associated Press falsely using the word cages when they're really describing chain link fence partitions. And everybody's saying, can you believe this? Well, first of all, this is what the law prescribes when you enter the country illegally. So we're enforcing the law, number one. Number two, I want you to imagine something. And me being a father, me being a parent, okay, I'm glad. I'm so grateful that I live in America. I wouldn't want to live anywhere else for now. But if I lived in a third world country, if I lived in Mexico and you had these terrible positions or you had these terrible conditions, I'm trying to think in what scenario would I just say, you know what? I'm fine with being separated from my child as long as I get into the country, so I'm going to go anyway. What kind of parent? Just an honest question. What kind of parent would cross the border illegally, knowing that they're going to be separated from their child? Now, some of them, it's possible that they may not know now. I don't know. But at this point, they know. And they know. So you would expect a severe curb in attempts, number one. Number two, you can apply the same logic to this when they say, you've got, people who were born here, and then you've got people who crossed here who were not born here, and their children were born here, and you're going to separate families or whatever, or, what kind of parent, if they were facing deportation, but their child wasn't, what kind of parent would say, okay, I'm going to leave you here, and I'm going to abandon my child and not take my child with me? I just feel like, this is something that are questions that maybe need answering, or at least need speculating. We never really hear about stuff like that. So, Joe, maybe try to open up the sound controls on the computer and just see what's going on there. We're still having some problems with our podcast today. The audio only version, everything else is working good. I got a text message just a second ago. Hang on a second. Yeah, so I got this text message a second ago, and it says, hang on one second. Corruption in Chicago has ruined the good life for its citizens. That is what corruption does. That is what corruption does. Interesting. Yes, that is true. Hey, we're going to go to break. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back in just a moment.
Who's next to zipline?
Me, and I'm really excited about this.
Sir, I'm sorry. The zipline has a 350-pound weight limit, and frankly, I do not think it would be safe for you.
Oh, that's okay. I self-identify as 180 pounds, so it's cool.
Sir, that doesn't make any sense to me, and I'm afraid we can't let you ride the zipline. You're too heavy. I'm sorry.
I can't believe this. I thought we had evolved as a society. I thought this was America, but I guess this is just my plight. First slavery, and now fat shaming.
Sir, again, I'm really sorry.
You listen to me. If you don't let me ride, not only will I sue this company for discrimination, I will sue you for damages because right now my feelings are so hurt and I feel embarrassed because I'm holding up the line.
Wouldn't be the first time.
Watch it, mister.
Look, okay, I'm sorry. I just don't think it would be safe for you.
You don't understand. I self-identify as skinny. So you have to let me ride the zip line. The Constitution says so. I get to define my own reality.
Oh, you know what? Okay, fine. Whatever. Ride the zip line. Mike, let this man ride the zip line.
Thank you. Now watch as my self-identity trumps your bigotry. See you on the other side, racist. Here I go! Doctor, thank goodness. What's the prognosis?
Sir, we've done everything we can, and you only have seconds to live.
No, you cannot say that. I do not self-identify as a dead person.
PHP Parody.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Thanks so much for being with us today. 870-275-9799. That's 870-275-9799. I've had a lot of people ask me, how did we get to this situation? How did we get to this place? And I will just tell you that I was going over and reading liberal columnist John Brummett. Well, liberal columnist John Brummett, I've criticized him. Well, actually, I feel like obviously, yes, I've criticized him, but I've reported on a lot of what he has said concerning our governor, Asa Hutchinson, and I'm constantly remarking about how John Brummett, who is a liberal guy, and everybody always knew he was a liberal guy, and the only way people could be okay with the direction that Arkansas is going now is if you suddenly believe that John Brummett has abandoned his progressive liberal principles and is becoming more conservative. And I think we would all reject that. To claim that is absurd to me. And so we talk a lot about how John has actually supported the governor. He has said essentially, it's the equivalent of it is the equivalent of, where Republicans used to, you might have a Republican that will say things like, well, sometimes you just got to vote the man and you can't vote the party. But it's reverse. It's reverse. I don't know if any Republican would say that, by the way. But you have liberal Democrat John Brummett, who, even when he tries to criticize Asa, he ends up supporting him, complimenting him, clearly in his mind says, well, it could be a lot worse. He's clearly the lesser of two evils. So I've been reading some of his stuff, and I've kind of thought to myself, with all the corruption, if you are on the left in this state, and it's a sinking ship, or is it? Is it just being rebranded? The USS Asacrat. Is that really what it is? That what it's being rebranded as? That's a good question. But if you're a liberal in this state, a committed one, a committed progressive liberal, and then you see the Republicans at the helm, and it drives you nuts. You can't stand it. And especially in Trump's America, right? You're all upset all the time. You're always trying to figure out who's the victim and who's the oppressor. If you look at John Brummett's body of work since this corrupt Republican, this culture of Republican corruption that also goes into the Democrat Party, mind you. Clearly, there's been Democrats ensnared in this. But the fact that the Republicans are in control and the key liberal journalist in the state is not making them own it, would that make any of you committed, diehard liberals mad or angry at all? Maybe a little bit? Just a tad? I think so. I think so. And I was just thinking, from my standpoint, if I was a committed liberal progressive, I'd be pretty upset with John Brummett not making the Republicans who are in positions of power own all of this corruption that is pervasive and is sequenced. I mean, it is sequenced. You can see that it's just, well, one person, and then somebody else is on deck. Well, they're going down next, and then who else is on deck? The reason what I'm saying is we can see in the media, like as somebody like me who's reporting on it, and following the headlines, right? You can see who's on deck next. You can sequence it out through not rampant or wild speculation. You can kind of see, oh, and he's associated with that guy. Okay, he's on deck. Turns out he goes down too. Oh, and he's associated with, he goes down as well. And you see what I'm saying? These are not isolated incidents. This is the good old boy system. And by the way, I will reiterate that the people of District 8 out of Fort Smith, they have a decision coming up. Early voting is underway still. And you have this, you guys are going to be replacing one of the most corrupt senators in the entire cabal, Senator Jake Files, who stole from you. And so the people of District 8 in Fort Smith have a choice. Who are you going to replace him with? It's a Republican primary runoff between former State Representative Frank Glidewell and current State Representative Matt Pitch. All right, we've got some technical problems we got to fix, folks, that have kind of sprung up on us. We're going to tackle those, and hopefully we'll be back in just a minute.
And more vital, especially for women. In fact, statistics show that 1 in 5 will be assaulted at some point throughout their lives, and women 18 to 25 have a higher chance of being assaulted than any other group, males included. This is why we have created courses designed exclusively for any woman interested in obtaining their concealed carry license or completing the nationally acclaimed COBRA self-defense classes. These practical, reality-based courses will prepare women for a wide range of situational skills, from firearms training to hand-to-hand self-defense. Our state-of-the-art facility includes everything needed to fully equip yourself with the skills needed for personal protection. Our instructors use military, law enforcement, and university instructor experience to ensure that each participant is fully educated to handle any situation they may find themselves in. Sign up today and begin your journey to a safer, more prepared life. Visit our website at deltatacticalsports.com or call us at 878-3099. Arkansas Firearm Safety Instructor, 151155.
One of the most vital problems businesses face today is a shortage of good quality employees. I'm Josh Braswell.
And I'm Lori Cartwright. East Arkansas Broadcasters can help you find the next key team member for your business. We have the largest listening audience in Northeast Arkansas with active listenership in 8 surrounding counties, plus multiple stations across the state to help you find the employee who may be looking to relocate.
Business owners, human resource managers, and hiring professionals. If you are looking to add to your staff, contact us and let us help you build a winning team.
Call 870-934-5029. That's 934-5029. And put East Arkansas Broadcasters to work for your company or your business.
And we're back with Dr. Dane Flippin with Arkansas Progressive Medicine. So, Doc, you've already let us know that you're the first step in getting approved for a medical marijuana card. But what conditions would qualify someone for the cannabis treatment?
Well, there's a long list, but a few of the most common conditions are PTSD, epilepsy, seizures, intractable pain, nausea, arthritis. And those are just a few.
And Arkansas Progressive Medicine is the place to go to be approved for cannabis treatment?
Absolutely. Call 870-520-6007 and set your appointment, or visit our clinic off Matthews on the Jonesboro Medical Mile.
I'm Chuck McDowell, CEO of Wesley Financial Group and timeshare cancellation advocate. I was sued by the largest timeshare company in federal court for simply helping people cancel their timeshare that they had been lied to about. The jury sized me up and came back with a verdict after only 20 minutes. And yes, I won.
My husband and I are more than grateful to everyone at Wesley Financial Group. You know, thanks to Chuck and his team, we feel as though a weight has been lifted and we can move on without the worry of a troublesome timeshare.
Whether you owe $10,000 to $250,000 on your timeshare, it's my mission to get you out of your timeshare, eliminate your payments, and get them off your back permanently. And we proudly hold an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau.
Want to learn more about getting rid of your troublesome timeshare? Call Wesley Financial.
Exposing the truth and everything the Marble Palace establishment keep trying to cover up. It's Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
Check one. Yeah, here we go. All right, 870-275-9799. And it's Monday. Thanks for starting the beginning of your week with us here, the intersection of conservative ideas and reality. Joe, can you... I want to flashback to 2013 real quick, okay? I didn't really get to finish my point. Why are we here? How did we get here? How did this divide within the conservative movement in Arkansas? How did Arkansas come up with its own brand of republicanism that somehow wouldn't survive in Texas or Oklahoma or Tennessee? You say, well, Paul, we don't have another brand of Republicans. Oh, yes, we do. Oh, yes, we do. Rex Nelson in his op-ed, he confirmed. I just think, we have political differences, but we do have some honest people out there who are at least admitting that there is a divide. And so when you say, well, Arkansas Republicans were so much smarter than Alabama Republicans, those backwoods morons. Essentially, that's the condescending nature. That's what they're trying to advance, is that notion. I'll get to this op-ed later in the next hour, but you'll understand what I'm saying. How did we get here, though? How did this divide occur? Well, okay, to give you a little context, here's a flashback. So Talk Business and Politics, Roby Brock in 2013. So we're going all the way back to 2013. Interviewed liberal columnist John Brummett about the state of the Republican majority, the very slim at the time Republican majority. And John Brummett says, we're going to get back. They're radical on abortion. They're radical on Second Amendment rights because he's a liberal. That's who he is. But he says, but there is hope. There may be a way to get these Republicans to embrace Obamacare. And that's what has caused the collapse of the what I would say the divide and maybe the collapse of the Republican Party of Arkansas. Listen to this flashback 2013.
Extremism, guns, and abortion unchecked, going right through.
Do we have?
And yet, possibly at the end, We're going to effect this soft, synchronized landing between tax cuts and expanding Medicaid, in which this new Republican majority is going to, in a modified way,
like we don't have it.
Embrace
well, whenever you figure it out,
Obamacare,
let me know, Joe.
And extend health care in Arkansas.
I can summarize it because I listened to the whole thing while doing the show prep and getting it into queue. And essentially what it is it's John Brummett saying that whatever the Republicans who are going to vote for this thing have to say, they should say it. Whatever they vote for, or whatever, if they're going to have to go back and sell their people, that just say whatever you have to say. Essentially, and this is what the tagline is: if you have to lie to your constituents, go ahead and lie to your constituents. And I thought that was an amazing. That's an amazing admission, to lie to your constituency. And that's essentially what was being advocated. And that's exactly what they did, too. That was what was so crazy, that is exactly what they did. You had the minority, and at the time, it was a minority of Republicans. They had a slim majority, but it was a minority of them that broke and went with all of the Democrats. And we've been over this 100 times. But you know what? For those who are listening out of Fort Smith on the Marshall, you guys have this big primary going on, and maybe you've never heard some of this information before. Maybe you don't know why there appears to be some sort of divide within the Republican Party of Arkansas. Well, it's because they tried to say that Medicaid and the expansion of it under the Affordable Care Act that they voted for had nothing to do with Barack Obama and his signature domestic achievement known as the Affordable Care Act, or known as Obamacare. They tried to say it had nothing to do with it. And the reason they had to say that, and some are still saying that, I understand, is because they had all campaigned against it. They campaigned to say, no, we were never going to do this because it's a socialist health care program from a socialist president. And then they got down there to Little Rock, and then they embraced it. They embraced the socialist health care program from the socialist president. The phone number, 870-275-9799. That's 870-275-9799. I understand that there is going to be, later today, if it's not already up right now, let me see if it's here. I had a little bird tell me that over at Conduit for Action, there is going to be a very, very good story. It's not up yet, but a very, very good story written about issue 1 coming up probably sometime today. So, you know what? If you don't want to have to keep checking the website, and you don't want to have to, keep reminding yourself, if you'll go to conduitforaction.org right now, and at the top right-hand of the page, if you'll go ahead and put your email address in, you can subscribe to receive their new posts. Now, and the reason this is obviously advantageous is because most of us check our email once a day, comes right to our phones, but it's kind of hard, unless you're a news hound like me, to remember, okay, I go to this website, then I go to this website, then I go to this website. Now, there's probably a lot of you talk radio junkies that say, Paul, that's exactly what I do. I do that all the time. I have the certain websites and news websites that I check because I'm a news junkie too, because, if you listen to talk radio, you probably are. But not everybody's like you. Not everybody is like you. Oh, okay, yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, not it's going to be on the ethics proposals. That's right. I'm sorry. Not issue 1, but the ethics reform proposals that came out, which we talked about on Friday. On Friday, we talked about the ethics reform proposals that came out of the Jim Hendren press conference, where the press was incredibly hostile, or there were some hostile questions, because they were asking questions like, why have you waited this long to do something about the problem with ethics, to do something about attorneys who are legislators representing their clients and being paid to pass bills. Why is it taking this long? And then they went over the ethics proposals and the rules, and it was I still really can't get over how funny it was to hear them say that under their new rules, you're going to have to self-report or tattle on your friend or your colleague if you think they've done something unethical, that you have to tattle on them. And then to hear the question, well, are any of you willing to do that right now on Jeremy Hutchinson, on the governor's nephew? And there were crickets. It was just absolutely silent out there. That was pretty wild. The telephone number, 870-275-9799. And we're going to take a break. We're going to be back here in just a moment.
Buy, sell, and trade at Triple R Pawn in Ash Flat. Firearms, computers, sporting goods, musical instruments, tools, jewelry, and everything else you can think of. It's all at Triple R Pawn at the Light in Ash Flat. Gun enthusiasts, log on now to triplrpawn.com and browse their amazing inventory. That's triplrpawn.com. You can also call them at 870-994-PAWN. That's 870-994-7296. Let the great team at Triple R Pawn help you find what you're looking for. That's Triple R Pawn at the Light in Ash Flat, triplrpawn.com, or call 870-994-PAWN.
Russellville-based firearms manufacturer Omega are making clones of the most notable German firearms in the world. These delayed rotor-lock firearms have been and are currently used by law enforcement and military worldwide. At Omega, they manufacture their guns right here in Arkansas and produce the best reproduction in the marketplace that comes with a complete 5-year warranty. At Omega, they take firearm manufacturing seriously and offer discounts to active and retired law enforcement. Whether you're using Omega firearms to defend the public, defend your family, or for target practice, Omega has your back. For pricing, go to omega-guns.com. That's omega-guns.com. If you're like me, you believe that small business is the heart of Arkansas's economic engine, and it should be viewed that way by the politicians in Little Rock. Conduit for Commerce also believes, like you and I believe, policies that achieve less regulation and lower taxation help small business in Arkansas thrive. Other policies like small, constitutionally consistent government and reducing citizen dependency on government keeps it from growing and expanding its influence on our daily lives. Conduit for Commerce works every day to educate the general public and legislators on these important priorities in the name of Arkansas small business. By the way, contributions to Conduit for Commerce are tax deductible. Log on now to conduitforcommerce.org and click on Contact Us on the right side of the page. That's conduitforcommerce.org. Go there now and learn the facts on protecting small business in Arkansas.
Determined to drain the swamp in Little Rock, it's Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
All right, so we have we've got this audio here. We figured it out. It's just one of those days. It's a Monday, but we're not going to get a case of them. Listen to John Brummett 2013, being interviewed by Roby Brock, Talk Business Politics. If you want to know about the divide in the Republican Party of Arkansas today, it is because of, well, it's just not because of him, but this is an accurate description about what went on. Listen.
Guns and abortion unchecked, going right through. And yet, possibly at the end, we're going to effect this soft, synchronized landing between tax cuts and expanding Medicaid, in which this new Republican majority is going to, in a modified way, embrace, sort of, Obamacare and extend health care in Arkansas.
Stop.
It's close to happening.
Now,
I don't want to jinx it.
It's everybody's tired of hearing about Obamacare. I'm tired of hearing about Obamacare. I can't stand it. I especially can't stand that Republicans went along with this. But you have to understand something. It wasn't just this one disagreement. The same people, okay, if you show me the players, I can predict the play. Let me say that again. Show me the players, and I can predict the play. I can predict what they're going to do. It wasn't just Obamacare. At the time, we just disagree on this one issue. Just happens to be about a $2 billion program, and now we know about all the consulting fees and the Medicaid mafia and paying legislators, and we know about all this. So this is very surreal to go back and listen to liberal John Brummett describing the play-by-play here. But it wasn't this one issue. Then there was the next legislative session, and then they lied to us that they were going to end it, and they didn't end it. Then it was the next legislative session, and they tried to get more taxes and disguise what they really needed it for, which was this very – if you want to know why they're having to raise your taxes or why they have a tax farce commission, a tax farce, and they couldn't just do it through the normal legislative process, they had to control the outcome, it's because they have to make sure that the state of Arkansas, whatever they're getting – financially now from the taxpayers, that they get no less than that. They can't shrink government. We have over-leveraged ourselves to the point where we may not shrink government, and Republicans who are in control are making sure it doesn't happen because, again, all the way back to 2013, you have to understand, it wasn't just about this issue, but it is about this issue. It wasn't just one disagreement with a select group of Republicans and all the Democrats. It ended up being the other parts of the Republican Party platform. It's like if you deviate from the platform here, well, I deviated from the party platform here, but with socialized medicine, but I won't deviate over here or here or here. But then slowly but surely, yes, you do. You're for higher taxes. You're for more spending, and that's the way it ended up happening. I don't know if there's some kind of formula there, but again, if you show me the players, the people who are still treated as legitimate leaders by the mainstream media and Republican Party rank and file who refuse to lead themselves and try to take power away from these people and their familiar relations and the nepotistic nature of governing, they refuse to actually step up. It doesn't matter. I don't know what would have to happen. I don't know what would have to come out in the headlines corruption-wise, for you guys to act, for you guys to buck the system, for you guys to stand up and lead. I don't know what would have to happen. I actually think it would be, it would be so bad. I don't even know. I don't even know what it would take. Honestly, I very discouraged right now with some of our people who are well, they're not in actual leadership positions, but they could be. But you got to take it. You got to step up. You got to risk being ostracized. You got to risk, not being friends with somebody. Back to 2013. John Brummett, Roby Brock, Talk Business Politics. This is why there's a divide in the Republican Party today. Listen.
By saying it's going to happen. But that would be a remarkable ending and a remarkable dichotomy in this session. Both, I think, the worst and the best.
How do you think they have managed to accomplish appeasing this right flank of the Republican Party? There's going to be some no votes there, but they've brought some folks into the fold, particularly on this Medicaid private option deal. That's really a pretty politically stunning accomplishment when you get down to it.
And they haven't brought everybody, and I'm not sure they've brought enough to get a 3/4 vote. But maybe they have. But there have been a couple of good outside independent reports that say this is actually the most fiscally responsible thing to do, that this would work more economically in the long run than strict Medicaid expansion.
No.
Even better.
This is all
in
proven.
Some ways.
Stop. This is all proven false, by the way. At this point in time, we all know this was not the fiscally conservative thing to do. I mean, fiscally conservative, it depends on how you define it. Any notion that this was good for the state financially ended in 2017 for sure. But the fact is, now that they're going after tax increases because they have to pay for it, I mean, it's not fiscally responsible to grow government the largest ever in Arkansas state history. That's not conservative at all. And, excuse me, back in 2013, again, here's John Brummett trying to define what's fiscally conservative. Okay? All right, keep going.
Straight dollar for dollar. But even better than doing nothing and letting uncompensated care continue to go unchecked and letting the state Medicaid budget perhaps explode. What if we do nothing?
The state Medicaid budget has exploded. If you look at how many billions of dollars we were spending before this versus how many billions of dollars we're spending, it's clearly in the upward trajectory. Number two, the DISH payments, the disproportionate health share payments that were supposed to go away, that were for uncompensated care, they never went away. Uncompensated care is still getting that on top of the $2 billion windfall to insurance companies and hospitals. The whole thing was a lie. It was a scam. It was a lie perpetuated on the people of Arkansas. And we now know why. Because people were making money on the side. So it not only was a lie, but they were getting paid to lie to us. And we know that that is corruption and the people are suffering because of it. You go back and listen to these people talk about what was going to happen, what would be good to happen, and they are 100% verifiably wrong. And yet, you still will listen to them as credible sources. Keep going.
40,000 people now eligible for Medicaid, then sign up for Medicaid, and we have to do a 70-30 match. So it is this idea.
Yeah, but you only pay if you go to the doctor.
This is actually the smart, fiscally conservative thing to do.
Stop. Again, 2013, John Brummett saying the Republicans should do this because it's the fiscally conservative thing to do, that giving money to insurance. Again, if you are a true blue Democrat liberal, you got to wonder why John Brummett's been giving the Republicans' leadership a pass with all this corruption and not making them own it. John Brummett saying giving Blue Cross Blue Shield $2 billion a year, that's the fiscally conservative thing to do. Keep going.
And you just have to get these folks to accept that and then be confident that they can convey that to the folks back home who elected them to go to Little Rock mainly and do one thing, stop Obamacare.
Right.
So when they go back and say, couldn't do that, but here's what I did do.
Embrace it.
It may be counterintuitive, but actually saved you money. That's sort of how that's happened.
We had Speaker of the House, Davy Carter, actually quoted yesterday on the Talk Business website saying that by embracing the private option, you are, in fact, opposing Obamacare.
Whatever they have to say, Roby. You know, I mean, I saw Representative Burris yesterday. I said, let's just put up a grandstand out here and gather all the conservatives and let you all say the things you need to say in order to cast this logical vote. If they say this is actually a rejection of Obamacare, when in fact it imposes Obamacare, I don't care. I want everybody to be happy.
All right, so that last part is the most crucial part of this clip, and that's really one I wanted you to convey. I wanted to convey to you. I wanted this old clip of John Brummett. I wanted him to, you know, essentially say, hey, listen, this is the divide. This is why John Brummett said exactly what the Republicans did. What John Brummett said is exactly what the Republicans did. They said whatever they had to say, and they claimed that it was opposing Obamacare, when in fact, John Brummett is right here, it was embracing it. It was imposing Obamacare. Okay? All right. Just one issue, right? Just one time, ships passing in the night, we disagree on this one issue, Republican versus Republican. It's just one. No, it wasn't just one. And it keeps going to this day. And now, We know why. Non-healthcare political action committees, I'm sorry, not non-healthcare. We know why healthcare political action committees, both in the state and out of the state, in late 2012 and early 2013, started spending millions of dollars contributing to senators, state senators, when they didn't even have opponents, when the price, hear me, the price of a Senate seat in Arkansas went from about $150,000 of what you needed to raise in order to be competitive to $300,000. It doubles the amount of money they get, doubles. It all now makes perfect sense if you have been watching this the way Conduit News has been watching and reporting on, and it's only just now all coming to light. The divide in the Republican Party could have been healed by a true conservative leader that assumed power and decided to lead us out of this mess. But instead, we got Asa Hutchinson. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the truth. That's an accurate description of what's gone on. We got fence rider who can, again, according to Rex Nelson, I'm going to get into that op-ed coming up here at the top of this next hour. Rex Nelson of the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette is really excited about what progressive Republican Asa Hutchinson will do in his next 4-year term. Rex Nelson of the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette confirms exactly what we have been saying all along, that the governor is a progressive, that the governor is not a change from the status quo. He even says that. And we'll talk about that, as well as the fact that Preferred Family Healthcare, next hour we'll talk, Preferred Family Healthcare is now suing their former employee, if you can call him that. Let me rephrase this. Preferred Family Healthcare is now suing their bought and paid for politician Jeremy Hutchinson, trying to recoup money back that they paid him. And this whole thing is a ruse, trying to make Preferred Family Healthcare look innocent, and is also trying to make Jeremy Hutchinson look like he was an actual attorney. Wait till you hear the reason they're suing him for. It's hilarious. I actually think Jeremy Hutchinson, the reason he didn't do the actual legal work that they were requesting is because he probably was like, that'll cost more, baby. That'll cost more. If you want actual legal work done, I'm passing bills, son. I'm passing bills for you. I don't have to show up to this. I don't have to show up to this hearing or do actual legal work. I'm already your boy. I'm the bought and paid for politician. It's amazing what people will do. The different types of maneuvering. We'll also talk about what Asa Hutchinson had to say about his nephew. Asa Hutchinson is attempting to paint his nephew as a victim in all of this. No surprise. I think we know for sure now that Asa Hutchinson will not be calling for the resignation of Jeremy Hutchinson. I called on him to do this last week. I even had some people telling me Asa says he's gonna call for the resignation. No, apparently that's not true. Instead, he's defending Jeremy Hutchinson. We'll be back in just a moment.
The news and talk of Northeast Arkansas. This is News Talk 101.3 FM and 12:30 AM KBTM, Jonesboro, an EAB radio station.
Hey, folks, we're trying to build the Liberty Machine, as you hear me talk about all the time. One of the best ways to build this Liberty Machine is to get our content and to get Conduit News Radio out to more people, to make them know who we are and what we're talking about. So I had an idea. What you see here is the 2018 Arkansas Democrat-Gazette Best of the Best Reader's Choice Awards. And it says here, let your voice be heard during the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette's annual Best of the Best contest. Central Arkansas residents can vote for their favorite restaurants, salons, and more.
Well, they can also vote for their favorite radio host. So for those of you listening in Central Arkansas, I would encourage you to go and fill out the best of the best. As you can see right here, you get to the best local radio DJ. You know what? Just the fact of getting nominated. Now, you have to fill out at least 10 slots in order for your nominations to be considered. So make sure you're educated about where is the best golf course, in your opinion, in Central Arkansas. But if you'll just put my name in there, I think just being nominated would give Conduit News a platform to get in front of other people, to get in front of new listeners, and because that's exactly what we're trying to do. We're trying to get in front of as many new people as we possibly can, because knowledge is power, like you've always heard us say. Thomas Jefferson said, an educated citizenry is indispensable to the proper functioning of a republic. So I would encourage you, this is just an idea, one way you could help build the Liberty Machine. Constitutional, trying to get a challenge because they want to be able to tax citizens who are outside of the state and get them to comply with our tax code. And, one of their arguments was, hey, we've got to save our Main Street businesses. Main Street is bleeding. And I'm thinking, whether you tax the internet or not, I'm still going to use the internet. And a matter of fact, they're counting on it. And so if you're a small mom and pop business, how is getting more money to the government or getting them more tributaries to get revenue from us, how does that help a mom and pop business who actually needs to move more product?
It doesn't. That's a really good point. This is in all cases just a revenue grab by your local government. They're looking for new sources of revenue, and this seems to be an easy way to get it. But going back to this idea that the internet is currently untaxed is really a myth. I think it's only about 20% of products that are bought online that are currently untaxed by your state or local government, or couldn't be taxed by your state and local government. So really, we're just talking about that small sliver of internet sales that are done by the small and medium-sized businesses that aren't your big Amazons. Apple does a lot of retail online. These businesses already do collect sales tax in every state. So we are truly talking about the sort of innovative online businesses that can't deal with the regulations from every state and every jurisdiction.
Yeah, and that would be, that'd be a nightmare if you had to comply. And a lot of people, I think, would just go out of business. I think that's the reality here. Adam, if the current precedent is overturned in the South Dakota case, and the Supreme Court says, you know what, we were wrong when we took this case up originally about the catalogs, that mail-in catalogs and people, ordering stuff out of the catalog. That was the initial exemption, and now, of course, we have the internet. But what other implications are there, Adam, for states that maybe want to impose taxes on other states? I mean, it's kind of a sovereignty nightmare. If for example, and I've heard this one in some reports, if California, very liberal state, supposedly different than Arkansas, although sometimes I wonder, if they wanted to maybe impose a carbon tax on Arkansas coal plants, this opens a Pandora's box, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. It sets in motion this idea that it is okay for local governing entities to reach beyond their sovereign borders into other sovereign jurisdictions and impose their taxes, their rules, their regulations. I think it also, it's not just a danger of the California example you gave, but we're seeing it internationally. Europe there's this thing on the horizon called a digital tax. The European Union is proposing taxing American.
I think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the Founding Fathers.
They seem to be in full-scale retreat from spending cuts and are talking about raising people's taxes again. And I have only one thing to say to the tax increasers. Go ahead, make my day.
If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. those who would trade our freedom for security have embarked on this downward course. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell is on now.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the program. 870-275-9799 is the telephone number. If you would like to contribute to the program, you can feel free to call or text that number, 870-275-9799. Broadcasting over at Facebook.com/Conduit News, up at YouTube as well. Conduit News, if you go to the YouTube channel and watch, you can do it inside your phone, inside the app on your phone. Feel free to subscribe, please, and click the little bell to receive notifications when we do our shorter videos. That would be very helpful. Okay. We are on the path of Arkansas corruption. I mean, we are watching what happens in real time as things unfold, and we know more and more about how bad the state really is. Doug Thompson reported this weekend that what a doozy of a headline this is. Former law client sues state senator. Filing seeks $383,805 from Jeremy Hutchinson. So, Preferred Family Health Care, we now know, was paying Jeremy Hutchinson $9,000 a month. And they're mad. Now, they're not really mad. They're just terrified that they're going to jail and that their company's going to be dissolved and shut down. I'm starting to wonder, before Preferred Family Health Care was Preferred Family Health Care, it was called Alternative Opportunities, and it was absorbed by Preferred Family Health Care. It was merged. So before the entity that we know of as today as Preferred Family Health Care, there was this company called Alternative Opportunities, and it gets absorbed into Preferred Family Health Care. So, hey, listeners, feel free to dig on that all you want. Maybe dig into, I don't know. I'm just saying I think we've got to figure out what was the reason of the merger here. What was going on? Keep in mind that Rusty Cranford, once he knew he was under investigation, he got Alternative Opportunities to give back the general improvement money to the tune of like $300,000. I was like, uh-oh. I got all this money for Alternative Opportunities. I've got to send it back because everything's coming down. Why would Prefer Family Health Care? Why would they sue their legislator lobbyist Jeremy Hutchinson? Well, because he wasn't a legislator lobbyist, Paul. He was doing legitimate legal work. That's what this lawsuit says. That's what this lawsuit, basically purports. It's essentially saying that you're wrong, that he didn't take $500,000 in bribes, that he was doing legitimate legal work. This lawsuit, I don't know if there's ever been a lawsuit that helps somebody who may be about to be indicted more than this. I mean, it helps Preferred Family Health Care because they say, see, we didn't bribe, and it's helping the perception anyway. Jeremy Hutchinson, because he says, see, they're suing me for not doing my job. They were paying me $9,000 a month. What exactly were they paying him $9,000 a month for then? See, it all falls apart if you just investigate a little closely. When Jeremy Hutchinson allegedly, he didn't do what he was supposed to do for they were being sued. The Preferred Family Health Care was being sued, and Jeremy Hutchinson didn't do what he was supposed to do for them. I'm making this as simple as possible. Well, did they continue to pay him $9,000 a month after the fact that they lost their lawsuit? That's a good question. No, as I said at the beginning of or at the end of the program. Well, let me get into the story first, okay? Hutchinson represented the subsidiary, but failed to show up for hearings or respond to court motions in the dispute, the suit says. Okay? So Hutchinson was representing Preferred Family Health Care, or supposedly representing them. It was David Coleman versus Health and Human Resources of Arkansas. Health Resources is a Batesville subsidiary of Preferred Family Healthcare. The new suit says Hutchinson didn't notify the company of missed deadlines and court appearances, and it cost them a bunch of money. They had to pay the money they lost the lawsuit, so they had to pay out money, and so now they're suing Hutchinson, and they're trying to recover their money, and they're trying to act like he was doing legitimate legal work for them when, this whole thing is just, it's all theater, in my opinion. It's just political theater, and enjoy the show. The problem is the people are suffering, and that's why we're covering this all. So why didn't Jeremy Hutchinson show up for hearings? Why did he miss the deadlines? Why did he not tell Preferred Family Healthcare about it? I'll tell you why. Because this wasn't in his job description. Jeremy Hutchinson wasn't hired by Preferred Family Healthcare to do actual legal work. Are you crazy? He's a senator. He's a chairman of the Judiciary Committee. This guy's not hired to do actual legal work. If you want that, you got to pay extra, baby. Come on. $9,000 a month? Come on, that's chump change. I'm passing bills. I'm passing laws for you. I'm passing resolutions in front of the Senate honoring Tom and Bontia Goss, which, by the way, he did. I'm Mr. Pomp and Circumstance. I give you pomp and circumstance. That's what you pay me that $9K a month for? Come on. That is why he didn't show up to these hearings. I'm not going to do actual legal work. It's because he was doing another job for him. He was already being paid. This is hilarious. Let's see. It goes on, and it just recaps that Senator Hutchinson is, in fact, Senator A. He's a Republican who served in the Arkansas Senate since 2011. Tim Dudley, an attorney from Little Rock representing Jeremy Hutchinson, said the company is trying to argue that Hutchinson was the company's lawyer and not the company's lawyer at the same time. Interesting. Dudley said Friday that his client cannot reasonably be acknowledged to be Preferred Family's lawyer, as stated in Friday's suit, and be the recipient of a bribe only disguised as a lawyer fee at the same time. So you can see how they're trying to muddy the water. This Preferred Family lawsuit against Jeremy Hutchinson may also be really for Jeremy Hutchinson in a way. They're trying to muddy the water. They're trying to say that he's a legitimate attorney doing legitimate legal work when, in reality, according to the court documents, he was paid $500,000 in bribes to pass legislation, just like Hank Wilkins was passing legislation and getting money as well, and he pled guilty as well. There's a long train of abuses here. And again, as I said last hour, these are not unfounded accusations. This is not unreasonable. This is not blatant speculation. With each one of these people that comes to the plate and strikes out and is convicted of corruption, we can see who's on deck. We, the people, are able to see who is on deck, who is up next. You know what I'm saying? And so it doesn't take a lot. This is not rocket science. So what is the governor doing? What is the governor doing with all this? This is his nephew. Well, the governor is saying we need to be patient. We need to slow down, and we need to be patient. John Moritz, headline, Arkansas lawmaker accused of wrongdoing should resign only if indicted, governor says. Little Rock senator facing pressure. Hutchinson calls for patience in the inquiry. Patience. So the governor is not going to call for his nephew to resign. Surprise, surprise. Governor Hutchinson repeated his belief Friday that a lawmaker accused of wrongdoing should resign only if he's indicted on criminal charges. Let me ask you this before we go into what Asa Hutchinson has to say. Is the potential indictment of Jeremy Hutchinson and the implication of Jeremy Hutchinson in taking $500,000 in bribes or whatever else he's done, is it a political witch hunt to you? Do you out there think that Jeremy Hutchinson is a victim of political persecution, that it's not because he is actually done anything wrong. It's just because he's against the status quo. He's bucked the system so many times, and he is essentially being targeted because he disagrees with the powers that be, their politics, and stands up against them. Is that why Jeremy Hutchinson's being accused? I mean, the governor's nephew. Is that why he's being accused of taking $500,000 in bribes? Is it a political witch hunt? Is it because he stands up against the status quo? I think we all of us, within an earshot of the Marble Palace, you're laughing right now, aren't you? You're saying, yeah, this guy is the status quo. This guy is a part of the political establishment. This isn't some sort of, the U.S. attorneys don't have a political vendetta against against Jeremy Hutchinson. If you talk to some people, you'll actually get the opposite answer of that. I think, honestly, with as much corruption as we're seeing, that you would have to assume the fact that Jeremy Hutchinson has not been indicted yet is because he's been given special treatment and consideration because of the governor himself. I think you would have to assume that any healthy skepticism, healthy American skepticism at this point, we would be stupid and naive as a citizenry if we didn't expect it, especially considering the career and the contacts that you have when you have as long political career as the governor does. We would be stupid to not assume that, by the way. I know that's going to ruffle some feathers. I'm just saying, it's a healthy American attitude to be skeptical of those in power, especially when, again, this is not one isolated incident. John Woods, the governor supported John Woods, and everybody knew he was doing something wrong. The governor supported Jake Files. Everybody knew that he was doing something wrong. You have John Woods, Mike and Neil, Jake Files, Orrin Paris. Why hasn't the governor investigated Ecclesia College? Why hasn't he demanded to know how our money was spent? Why is he so silent on all the corruption? Why did he target Linda Collins Smith, who actually tried to prevent attorneys from representing their clients as legislators? Well, I'll tell you why. He doesn't support it. And Ace is an attorney, just like his nephew. So, no, this isn't a political witch hunt at all. Back to John Moritz. Information attached to a June 7th federal guilty plea by lobbyist Milton Rusty Cranford accused Senator A., Jeremy Hutchinson, a Republican in Little Rock, of accepting bribes. However, the senator has not been charged. Cranford pleaded guilty to one count of the federal program bribery for his role in bribing Arkansas lawmakers from 2010 to 2017. The governor addressed the matter Friday during a previously scheduled speech on ethics at the Arkansas Bar Association's annual meeting in Hot Springs. Governor Hutchinson said he had delayed speaking about the matter in depth until the speech, although his conclusion was largely what he had told reporters last week. I have no change in what I think. Any decision on Senator Hutchinson's resignation should depend on the outcome of the federal corruption investigation. Some lawmakers are calling for Hutchinson to resign now. Quote, "You've got to be patient and let the justice system work," Hutchinson, a former U.S. attorney, said. The governor pointed to the example of former U.S. Senator Kay Bailey Hutchinson of Texas, who, while serving as state treasurer, was indicted by a state grand jury on misconduct charges in 1993, only to be later acquitted. Okay, so, stop. So Jeremy's a victim here. Now, if you go read about Kay Bailey Hutchinson and what happened with her, it was a state grand jury. It was not a federal grand jury. It was not a federal investigation. It was a state investigation. Okay? It was a state investigation. And it was by and large considered, there was many people that thought it was a political a prosecution. There was a political, these charges were brought because of political opposition, not actual wrongdoing. And that's why she was acquitted. Okay? And again, it was a state grand jury, not a federal indictment, which is obviously, because these are federal court documents up in the Western District of Missouri, that's obviously what Jeremy Hutchinson is facing. By the way, why we haven't had Arkansas indictments is very interesting. Why haven't we had people in the state of Arkansas, U.S. attorneys, indict Jeremy Hutchinson? What exactly is going on? By the way, where's the Arkansas Ethics Commission in all of this? Where is the Arkansas Ethics Commission? Oh, yeah, you know, the nonpartisan Arkansas Ethics Commission, the amazing nonpartisan Arkansas Ethics Commission that's appointed by the governor himself. Where are they? Where could they be? The next time you see the governor's other nephew, Jim Hendren, start talking about we're going to report on each other. Oh, don't worry, we have ethics reform. We're going to report on each other. Next time you hear Asa Hutchinson say, in our ethics reform, we need to strengthen the Ethics Commission, and we need to report on each other. We need to report. If somebody's doing something wrong, we need to report them. These people won't even call for the resignation of Jeremy Hutchinson. The next time you hear them say that, ask yourself right now, what's stopping legislators from reporting their colleagues today? Whether it's to the FBI, the DOJ, or the nonpartisan Arkansas Ethics Commission. What is stopping them from doing that now? And what about the ethics rules would change any of that compulsion to report? I'll tell you what's stopping them, the fear of getting primaried. That's what's stopping them, Joe, is the fear of getting primaried by the governor, who, if you try to stand on a piece of ground that's morally higher than him, he'll primary you. That's what he'll do.
I was more getting at the what's stopping them is the fear of getting caught, because the people who know are the people who are also involved.
Mm-hmm.
And the people who don't know are the people who don't know aren't involved in anything, so they don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
Other than hearsay, they have no evidence.
Well, and on the Arkansas Ethics Commission, if there are any changes at all, it'll be to actually target whistleblowers. That's what I think. If there's anybody that speaks out against the corruption, that speaks out against the status quo, they want to use this, quote, outrage against ethics to go after the people who are actually out there trying to expose all of this stuff. Oh, mark my words, that's exactly what they'll do. That's what they want to do. That's their whole goal in this. How do we act like it's the same thing? Like how do we act like we cut taxes but we really raise them? How do we act like we're going to correct our massive ethical problem, but actually, I mean that's what they did with John Woods. They called it an ethics bill, but it was an unethical bill that they called an ethics reform. They'll do the same thing again. John Woods the convicted Senator John Woods was all in the cabal, folks. He was all in the good old boy system. The last time they reformed, the same people that supported the reform of ethics last time are the same people that are supporting the reform of ethics this time, and it was unethical what they did. So I have no faith in these guys at all. The leadership, they don't really want to change. They don't want to shrink the size of government to where they have less money to steal from us illegally. We have to take a break. You're listening to Conduit News Radio. We're fighting to give you the truth. We'll be back in a moment. In a world full of constituents with social media accounts, bloggers just looking to increase their page views, and a talk radio host who generally
is just the worst. How are Little Rock's elite supposed to conduct business with such a lack of privacy? Introducing the 1835 Club, older and more refined than other clubs that claim discretion. The 1835 Club is for seasoned political veterans that want to conduct the highest form of aristocratic business with the public's money. Are you a schemer? Do you someday want a guaranteed flow of taxpayer money to support your business? Is it your dream to see the .gov domain at the end of your business website? Don't listen to the imitators. The 1835 Club is the place where corrupt politicians and businessmen hatch their next crony schemes. At the 1835 Club, we make lobbying safe and legal. Ethics. Why, of course. All business is done in an ethical manner. Just look for the sign above the door that reads, loophole. Are you tired of the Capitol Police restricting your access to the roof after a perfectly good night of drinking? The 1835 Club has libations and a perfectly good roof. Other crony clubs that promise discretion try to lure you in by advertising bars made out of aeroplanes. Well, at the 1835 Club, instead of an airplane fuselage, we've got a space shuttle. No, not a bar. We've got an actual space shuttle that makes a daily run to the moon so members of the 1835 Club can have some real privacy away from the bloggers and taxpayers. Are you an Arkansas aristocrat? Do you want to be? It's the 1835 Club, and we work tirelessly to make sure the good old boy system remains alive and well. Join today.
Disclaimer. The 1835 Club reserves the right to deny membership to anyone who has principles. Any talk of the Declaration of Independence or the Constitution must be done in jest or, at the very least, with a condescending tone. And finally, the 1835 Club will be given a 25% commission of any agreements made between politicians and the business community.
PHP Parody.
Bringing you your daily dose of truth. It's Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
We're going to get into this latest over at conduitforaction.org. We teased this last hour. It is up. It is there. You can start your week with information that you will find nowhere else. You will find this information nowhere else. David Ferguson, the former head of the Bureau of Legislative Research for the state of Arkansas for 30 years, has his analysis up at conduitforaction.org. You can go there now. The headline is Proposed Ethics Revisions, Improvements, and Weaknesses. This is a comprehensive analysis by Mr. David Ferguson. And, folks, there is none more credible on the inner workings, the deceit, the corruption, at the Marble Palace than David Ferguson, because he witnessed it as an attorney for the Bureau of Legislative Research and the head of the Bureau of Legislative Research for a long time, knowing how things work, knowing how slimy things can be. And of course, he did his job. He was supposed to write the bills, so he wrote the bills, did what he was told. That's what the Bureau was supposed to do. That's what the Bureau's doing now. That's why the Bureau hires outside counsel to deal with FBI subpoenas. Now they do. I mean, of course, they're hiring the same legal counsel as Tom and Bontia Goss, which is weird. They're under investigation. We will, I'll have more on this when we come back, okay? Don't go anywhere. Hey, folks, we're trying to build the Liberty Machine, as you hear me talk about all the time. One of the best ways to build this Liberty Machine is to get our content and to get Conduit News Radio out to more people, to make them know
who we are and what we're talking about. So I had an idea. What you see here is the 2018 Arkansas Democrat Gazette Best of the Best Reader's Choice Awards. And it says here, let your voice be heard during the Arkansas Democrat Gazette's annual Best of the Best contest. Central Arkansas residents can vote for their favorite restaurants, salons, and more. Well, they can also vote for their favorite radio host. So for those of you listening in Central Arkansas, I would encourage you to go and fill out the Best of the Best. As you can see right here, you get to the Best Local Radio DJ. You know what? Just the fact of getting nominated. Now, you have to fill out at least 10 slots in order for your nominations to be considered. So make sure you're educated about where is the best golf course in your opinion in Central Arkansas. But if you'll just put my name in there, I think just being nominated would give Conduit News a platform to get in front of other people, to get in front of new listeners, and because that's exactly what we're trying to do. We're trying to get in front of as many new people as we possibly can, because knowledge is power, like you've always heard us say. Thomas Jefferson said, an educated citizenry is indispensable to the proper functioning of a republic. So I would encourage you, this is just an idea, one way you could help build the Liberty Machine.
Digital companies, Facebook, Google, based on where the people that use the product are, not based on where the company is located. And that's the same precedent. It's opening up the ability of Europe to reach into the United States and tax our businesses simply because we have some of the most successful businesses in the world, and they are looking for revenue, not for any real sort of physical presence standard, which is the basis of tax law throughout history.
I haven't heard this, and I understand if you don't know the answer to this question, but do we have any preliminary reports of how some of the justices reacted or questioned, the key players in this case? I mean, do we have any idea of how they feel about this? Do you know?
Going into the case, there was sort of conventional wisdom that the Quill decision was going to be precedent was going to be overturned, and that the internet was going to be open to.
Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell is building a liberty machine. Find out more at conduitnews.com.
All right, so in the middle of an ethical crisis, I guess this is what I wrote down. We have people who want to act like that what we're experiencing here in Arkansas in the headlines is just a flash in the pan. There's nothing to see here. That people are, people have done some bad things, but it's not a pervasive culture, right? And that is not to say there's not good people. There are good people who are in office, and but I don't think we should have to qualify that. Let me. Of course, there are good people in office. Okay. But I'm tired of having to qualify that when we're talking about the corruption in the headlines. I'm sick of it, right? Because the assumption is there are no bad people. The assumption by the people who are representatives of the government is that the government, we get it right, and that there are no bad people. That and if you can get them to admit it, they never want to talk about it because that's just most of us down here are good. I'm sick of that. I think the people suffer from your naivete or your complicit nature. I think we have to start understanding the nature of man, and there's a theological element to it. But you have to understand that those that want to dominate are going to use whatever system, whether it was a monarchy or whether it's a constitutional republic. Those who have the will to dominate others by force are going to more than likely find ways into those positions of power. While the rest of us that maybe aren't inclined to do it, I mean, we all are inclined to some degree, because the Bible does describe our hearts as hostile to holy God, and that is 100% true. But when it comes to amassing power over men, okay, we have to understand, and this is why America was so great for so long, especially the first 100 years, because I think most people understood this. Well, you have to understand that it's not if somebody's going to abuse their power, but it's when, and you craft a government around that concept. You craft a government around the fact that, you know what, my freedom ends where yours begins, and vice versa. And we try to craft our laws on that, but we try to allow a government to be restrained because we know left unchecked, it will oppress. And the people who want the power, we should look at very skeptically. So when you say, well, we got all this corruption in the headlines, but, there are good people down there, I'm tired of qualifying that. Of course there are some good people in positions of power. But most people run around and act like there are no bad ones. And when they are, it's just an anomaly. It's just an anomaly, you conspiracy theorists. We're not bad. I reject that. Just because of what I know of human nature. I want to get to this Rex Nelson piece real quick because I want to take a victory lap. That's right, I want to take a victory lap. Rex Nelson had an op-ed in the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette. Now, he is the editor. He's the senior editor, or a senior editor, at the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette. And he's, reminiscing about the different ways that Asa Hutchinson came out on top in May, about how he dispatched what he calls, quote, far right-wing zealot Jan Morgan. Okay? And then Rex Nelson writes that he had fears after seeing Alabama Republicans nominate Roy Moore. The GOP proceeded to lose a seat, and he says that Alabama Republicans are essentially dumber than Arkansas Republicans. He actually said Arkansas Republicans proved they are a lot smarter than Alabama Republicans. I pulled an AP there. Hutchinson will cruise to victory, he writes, in the fall against token Democratic opposition. He knows that two of his biggest headaches in the Senate, fellow Republicans Brian King and Linda Collins Smith, won't be back. Republican primary voters saw the light and defeated both incumbents in the primary. So here we go. Rex Nelson firmly in the camp of Asa Hutchinson. When I worked for Governor Mike Huckabee, Rex Nelson writes, the priority of the final 4-year term was dedicated by the Arkansas Supreme Court. The court ruled just days after the 2002 election that the state's system of funding public education was unconstitutional. Huckabee's final 4 years were consumed by attempts to comply with what became known as the Lakeview decision. But Rex Nelson says that won't happen with Hutchinson. If elected again, quote, Hutchinson has more latitude with no such bombshells from the judicial branch on the horizon. You sure about that, Rex? We're fortunate to have a man like him leading the executive branch rather than some Trump clone. Interesting, Rex Nelson is anti-Trump. He's pro-Hutchinson, but anti-Donald Trump. He writes, call him the pragmatist. While Hutchinson knows how to dish out red meat on the campaign trail, he has continued what has been more than 5 decades of progressive leadership in the governor's office. Here we have Rex Nelson identifying himself as a progressive Republican, praising Asa Hutchinson, essentially saying that Asa knows how to dish out red meat or otherwise lie on the campaign trail to make himself seem more conservative than he actually is. I am glad that Rex Nelson is what appears to be an honest progressive who is identifying the very problem that I have been articulating for some time. Conduit News has been articulating for some time. The pragmatist, Asa Hutchinson, who is not a conservative, who is a progressive. that there is a progressive wing in the Republican Party. It's alive and well, and these people think of themselves as intellectuals, and they think of you, by and large, as not smart enough to be able to run your own lives without their guidance and divvying out the money that they're taking from you. And wouldn't you know it, we also have a corruption problem where they're taking so much money from us that they're actually able to steal it illegally to enrich themselves. He writes, that's a good thing. Since Winthrop Rockefeller was elected governor in November 1966, at the end of the 12-year Orville-Faubus era, Arkansas has had a string of 9 governors who have been pragmatists rather than ideologues. 4 have been Republicans: Rockefeller, Frank White, Huckabee, and Hutchinson. 5 have been Democrats: Dale Bumpers, David Pryor, Bill Clinton, Jim Guy Tucker, and Mike Beebe. What is this progressive Republican Rex Nelson saying? I'm only calling him Republican, by the way, because he said he worked for Mike Huckabee. What is he saying? He's saying that there is no difference between these Democrats and Republicans, and the state of Arkansas is no different than it was when Mike Beebe was here, when Dale Bumpers was here. There's no difference. All we did was change the color T-shirts everybody's wearing. That's so sad. I wish Conduit News wasn't right in this instance, but here is the victory lap, I guess. It's pretty depressing. But, yeah, there are people that agree with the same sentiment that we put out there. I'm outraged by it. This guy, Rex, thinks it's just the way things should be, status quo. And he goes on to talk about Arkansas's income and everything else, being a poor state and everything. And he says that the reason Arkansas is where it is because of the leadership we have. I think we are where we are in spite of the leadership. I think what they've done is essentially get us used to being a vassal state. I also think that our citizens are poorer than other people in this country because of our government. Because of our government. Any success that we have as Arkansans is a miracle. When it takes $8,000 a person to run our government, but $5,000 to run other people's, and look how much more prosperous they are. What it says is that there is a link between big government and more dependency and poverty. And that is that's sad to me. Moving on. Speaking of ethics, conduitforaction.org, the proposed ethics revisions and improvements. Mr. David Ferguson with an amazing article here, writing, due to mounting criticism because of continuing corruption cases involving state senators, Senate leadership is proposing changes to the Arkansas Senate's Code of Ethics. There are several good changes being proposed, David Ferguson writes. This is a review of the proposal. I've divided the subject as follows. Number 1, congratulations on improvements proposed. Number 2, needs further work. Number 3, glaring omissions. And number 4, ironic circumstances. I can't wait to read the ironic circumstances part. I previously reviewed the part of the proposed rule changes taking away jurisdiction from the Senate Rules Committee and giving it to a small hand-picked committee appointed by the President Pro Temp of the Senate. This power grab negates much of the improvements being proposed in provisions on conflict of interest and financial disclosure. I will not be reviewing the power grab in this article because it was covered in the other article. This article is written primarily for political insiders. If it reads too much like inside baseball for your taste, feel free to skip down to the section on glaring omissions or ironic circumstances. Number 1, congratulations on the improvements that are proposed. David Ferguson says, additional disclosure amount. Under the current ethics law, senators report sources of income as either being over $1,000 or over $12,500. That leaves a big gap in information. You can't tell whether a senator received $12,501 or $500,000 plus World Series tickets. Wink, wink. The proposal is an improvement because it adds a new reporting category of sources from which the senator received $50,000 or more. Now, you need to go, you can go to conduitforaction.org right now, and you can get all of this. Then it talks about quarterly updates. Under the ethics law, the statement of financial interest is filed only once a year. The proposal requires senators to update the Senate report quarterly. Conflict statement. If a senator has a financial conflict on legislation before he or she can participate in committee or on the floor of the Senate, the senator must file a written statement of conflict, and the statement is to be read publicly by staff. Closing reporting loopholes. The proposal closes some reporting loopholes existing in the current rules. In particular, it closes a loophole allowing a senator who is an attorney or consultant to avoid disclosing that their actions benefit their clients when the legislator's actions also benefited a segment of the population in general. Then you have financial interest expanded. The proposal expands the definition of financial interest by including an interest by the senator or his family if one of them is an employee or a consultant. Currently, financial interest only includes situations in which the senator or his family is an officer, director, or owns more than 10% interest. So that certainly broadens things. David Ferguson, again, the former head of the Bureau of Legislative Research, knows what he's talking about. He seems to think these are good improvements. And if I'm just saying I trust David Ferguson, if he says they're good, then I would agree with him. He goes on to talk about what needs more work, and it does get really into inside baseball. But let's go down to glaring omissions. Number one, glaring omissions. Medicaid business interests. Missing is Senator Brian King's proposal to require reporting of business relationships between legislators and Medicaid providers. King's proposal is more important than ever because of the expanding story of Medicaid corruption involving senators. Brian King's bill put the burden of reporting on the Medicaid providers, and that cannot be done by Senate rule. But the same can be accomplished by having the senators report their business dealings with Medicaid providers. Number two, a senator who is an attorney or consultant. The proposal also fails to address Senator Linda Collins Smith's bill to prohibit attorney legislators and consultant legislators from representing clients before the Senate. While the proposal improves the disclosure requirements for attorney consultant legislators, that is a far cry from prohibiting attorneys and consultants from essentially using their practices as lobbying businesses under the guise of professional services. With Senator Jeremy Hutchinson's retainers from Preferred Family Health Care being called bribes, this is no small issue. It's also no small issue that Senator Hendren and the little press gaggle they had when they were asked if anybody would use the new rules and call out Jeremy Hutchinson and report him as breaking them, there were crickets. They wouldn't report on him. Then there's a lack of openness. If the Senate is to begin building public trust, it must change the way it does business in the shadows. Number one, or A, you got a video archive, guys. If you're going to improve the ethics of the Senate, the very first step is to make its proceedings more accessible to citizens. And no, let me add, just because you're afraid that I will put your proceedings on Conduit News' broadcast, and I will. That's part of the process. You may be afraid of being on a talk radio program or having your debates televised with Conduit News. That's part of the process. That's part of the transparency we're talking about. Yes, there will be some of you senators that will now have Dan Douglas moments if I am allowed access to your Senate audio. But that's part of the transparency concept, yeah? Maybe don't say stupid things, okay? Videoing and archiving the video of Senate proceedings, including Senate committees, are needed to repair the public perception of the Senate as a body that tries to hide from the public. And you guys do hide from the public. That's what you try to do. Unfortunately, many senators prefer to have an audience primarily of lobbyists and school children on a Capitol tour. Yeah, that's right. Most of what you guys do when you meet is have an award ceremony recognizing people that really are not deserving of awards. I want to recognize somebody that saved a family from a burning building. That somebody needs recognition. And then it actually means something when you recognize somebody. You guys recognize everybody and give everybody an award. It's frustrating. Anyway. B, publishing committee roll call votes. If you are determined enough, you can get a copy of a roll call vote taken in a Senate committee, but they don't make it easy. The committee roll call votes and other committee actions should be posted as part of the bill history on the General Assembly's webpage. This would not impede Senate operations because automation and posting can easily be handled by staff of the Bureau of Legislative Research. C, record all votes. How did your senator vote? Many votes are taken by voice vote, leaving you with no idea how your senator voted. Recording all votes would not be a burden to the Senate. Committee roll calls are quick since there are only 8 senators on subject matter committees. In the Senate chamber, an electronic voting system to record all votes should speed up Senate proceedings by not spending as much time on calling the roll. An electronic voting system for the Senate is not an issue of cost or difficult technology. A more likely impediment to progress is the fact the current system allows senators to spend time out of the chambers without the public being aware. Boy, when you have somebody like David Ferguson that knows all of your tricks and your schemes, boy, I really wish he could write these rules for you guys. Here are the ironic circumstances. Ethics course in between lobbyist events. The proposal requires senators to take a Senate-approved ethics course after the elections. By the way, the Arkansas Ethics Commission has always been available to assist. Here is the irony. The ethics course is likely to be taught when the Senate has its organizational meeting/orientation, which is packed with lobbyist events providing senators free meals and drinks. Yes, it would be a full training experience. Handling the ethics rule announcement, Senate leaders unveiled their ethics proposal in the smallest, most out-of-the-way committee room in the Capitol. Did the Senate provide a video of the press conference? No. A video exists from Kenneth Wallace, but without it, the Senate was happy for you not to see it. Can you read the proposal on the Senate website? No. I found a copy posted in an article by Max Brantley on the Arkansas blog, a liberal publication. Thanks to Kenneth and Max for doing the job the Senate fails to do. What's the general assessment? Number 1, the proposed rules on conflicts of interest and financial disclosure are improvements, but the proposal needs work to address some weaknesses. Number 2, the number of Senate ethics issues not addressed is disappointing. Not incorporating legislation from Senators King and Colin Smith ignores the current woes in the Senate. Number 3, the power grab to give the president pro temp and a few of his allies control over the ethics process is embarrassingly bad. And David Ferguson writes, I didn't intend to write any more on ethics rules and laws, but I will follow up to help you understand the overall picture with regard to the ethics in the Arkansas legislature. While this article is basically written to provide details to insiders of the legislative process, I will make the next article on this subject more of a bird's-eye view of ethics in Arkansas. Again, David Ferguson, former director, the Bureau of Legislative Research, 32-year career at the BLR. Back in just a moment.
Russellville-based firearms manufacturer Omega are making clones of the most notable German firearms in the world. These delayed rotor-lock firearms have been and are currently used by law enforcement and military worldwide. At Omega, they manufacture their guns right here in Arkansas and produce the best reproduction in the marketplace that comes with a complete 5-year warranty. At Omega, they take firearm manufacturing seriously and offer discounts to active and retired law enforcement. Whether you're using Omega firearms to defend the public, defend your family, or for target practice, Omega has your back. For pricing, go to omega-guns.com. That's omega-guns.com.
Buy, sell, and trade at Triple R Pawn in Ash Flat. Firearms, computers, sporting goods, musical instruments, tools, jewelry, and everything else you can think of. It's all at Triple R Pawn at the Light in Ash Flat. Gun enthusiasts, log on now to triplrpawn.com and browse their amazing inventory. That's triplrpawn.com. You can also call them at 870-994-PAWN. That's 870-994-7296. Let the great team at Triple R Pawn help you find what you're looking for. That's Triple R Pawn at the Light in Ash Flat, triplrpawn.com, or call 870-994-PAWN.
If you're like me, you believe that small business is the heart of Arkansas's economic engine, and it should be viewed that way by the politicians in Little Rock. Conduit for Commerce also believes, like you and I believe, policies that achieve less regulation and lower taxation help small business in Arkansas thrive. Other policies like small, constitutionally consistent government and reducing citizen dependency on government keeps it from growing and expanding its influence on our daily lives. Conduit for Commerce works every day to educate the general public and legislators on these important priorities in the name of Arkansas small business. By the way, contributions to Conduit for Commerce are tax deductible. Log on now to conduitforcommerce.org and click on Contact Us on the right side of the page. That's conduitforcommerce.org. Go there now and learn the facts on protecting small business in Arkansas.
Need your daily news fix? Don't forget to tune in to Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
All right, welcome back. We have, let's see here. I had somebody write, with all these ethics problems that we're having, are we conceding that our elected people need to be told what is right and wrong? Now, that's a really good question. I mean, I think the answer is yeah. I mean, that's how bad it is. I mean, we all have to be taught. Here's the problem. Okay. You don't have to teach your child how to steal or lie or try to rebel against you. You know, I have a 11-month-old daughter, and she can answer questions now with like nods. You know, she's got a limited vocabulary, but it's pretty good. You know, are you sleepy? Yeah, she'll nod. Most of the time, she'll be honest. Yeah, I'm sleepy. I need to go to bed. But you know, we can tell when she's sleepy. We know. And sometimes we ask her if she's sleepy, and she says no because she does not want to go to bed yet. You know, you don't have to teach that. You don't have to teach that selfishness. You don't have to teach it. It is ingrained in us for some reason. You don't have to teach a kid how to steal. You have to teach them not to steal. So, yeah, it's sad that we have adult legislators that have to be told not to take $500,000 in bribes and illegally passed legislation or unethically passed legislation. Or it's sad that but I mean, this is why government must be limited, because we will concede that left to their own devices, they will use the force of law to oppress or enrich themselves. They want to call it legal graft. They try to make a distinction between legal graft and illegal graft. What Jake Fowles and John Woods did, that was illegal graft or dishonest graft. But what Jeremy Hutchinson's been doing is honest. He's honest. It's been honest graft the whole time. Arkansas, have a great Monday. We'll see you back here tomorrow at 6:05. Be safe.